Guys ready? Is that good? Is that good? Good evening. I would like to welcome everyone to our March Town Council meeting. Thanks for everyone joining us in council chambers as well as those watching on our YouTube channel this evening. We will move right into our agenda, and first up is our agenda adoption. Is there a motion on the floor to approve the agenda as presented this evening?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Thank you. The motion is carried. At this time, we will have Councilman Thevenin lead us in our invocation this evening.
Thank you, Mayor. Let's pray. Father, we thank you for a rainy day today. Lord, we're just so thankful that we didn't have too much damage from storms. And God, just ask you to be with those who may have suffered some damage with all this wind. God, just ask you to be with our meeting tonight. God, as we always pray, Lord, we just ask that you bless us with your presence and keep us all civil and respectful in our debates, and we'll give you glory for it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We do not have any special presentations this evening, so we will move into the public comment portion of our agenda. Anyone wishing to address Town Council may do so. We do have several folks that signed up to speak, so please be courteous. Make sure you state your name and address for the record. Each speaker will have 3 minutes, and we will move right into, I believe it's Jim Fairchild is first on the list.
Hi, yes, I'm Jim Fairchild. I was here a few months ago, and I've been in Harrisburg for 33 years and just recently moved from Bradford Park to Robinson, or Courtyards on Robinson. So what I wanted to talk about today was that we just moved to that neighborhood, and they've got, one of the reasons that we moved to that neighborhood was because of the connectivity that it was going to have with all of the different trails and pavements that Harrisburg has, their developments do. So it was a big factor for us, and we've been thrilled, especially since y'all got the connector at Berg Church. With that, you can walk on Fuda Creek, come around Fuda Creek, go up around the other way, and it's through the Back Creek trail, and it's really a nice hike. So thank you for that. I can't wait for the other connections to be developed and created, like the Farmington one in particular, because that would get us over to our old stomping grounds. And then there's another connector that Robinson Courtyards is going to be creating, and they've done the bulldozing on it, but they haven't gotten. They're not going to be able to get people working on the paving and stuff on that until they get the connectors, not the connector, the second entrance done, if you're aware of that. So if there's anything that we can do to speed that up, I'm all for that, because I want to get the trail done. Let's see, that's good. Yeah, another thing I wanted to bring up was I was thrilled also when I saw earlier that you're going to be putting a kayak launch in at Farm Mill. I tried to go out there and find where that might be. I walked on the Farm Mill trail there, but I didn't see that. So, but wherever that is, whenever it's going to be there, that would be a great thing, because I'm also an avid kayaker. When I looked at your publication of the results of the survey, that was a good thing as well. So I'm really quite pleased with what you guys are doing. That the placement of the the connections, the connected Harrisburg, and can we do more trails that, or pavements and stuff? That was like top 3 or something in there. So that was also a good thing. So really what I wanted to do is say a couple of things that are specific to my living in Harrisburg, but also to thank you for driving toward the connected Harrisburg. I think that's a great goal and one that can really help. So that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fairchild. Rosa Sims?
Good afternoon. Rosa Culver Sims, 9445 Layton Drive, Harrisburg, North Carolina. So here we are again. If any of you have seen the movie Groundhog's Day, where they keep going over the same thing over and over again, that's how I feel, that we're in a loop. We keep revisiting the same issues. I understand that there has been some concern about how Dr. Banks' name is appearing on the website and here on the dais. She was elected and voted on, or she was voted on as Mayor Pro Tem in January.
No, she was not.
She was not?
No, she was not. She was
Okay.
voted on as a councilwoman. She was appointed Mayor Pro Tem by the council.
Okay, so she was appointed
Yes,
unanimously,
yes,
Mayor Pro Tem in January.
yes.
Right. In previous years, Mayor Pro Tem has always been identified on the website with a name tag as Mayor Pro Tem. For some reason, that's not the case this time. I don't understand. I don't know why we're spending energy and or time not doing something as simple as that when it's already been voted on. She's Mayor Pro Tem. She should be identified as Mayor Pro Tem. Yes, she's a member of the council. And that's the governing body. But as Mayor Pro Tem, it's something that you all voted on. That should be noted on the website and on her name placket. Now, I don't want to be in this groundhog loop the rest of this year. So I sincerely hope that we can correct that by the next time we have a council meeting. But if not, I will be here saying, y'all, we still stuck at groundhog. And we need to get this right. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sims. Karen Powell?
Hi, Karen Powell, 5641 Berry Ridge Drive. I too was here a couple months ago, and I'm just here to say thank you. I want to call out Mr. Ryan McDaniels, Mr. Tom Lesser. Even Ms. Glover approached me to help me out. We had some horrible noise coming through our neighborhood over there in Orchard Park, and they came, like, Mr. Lesser was at my house within 2 days, and I don't know what they did. I don't know what magic they did. I stayed out of it, and they fixed it. It's over, and it's been fantastic. Back to hearing the birds chirping. So I just want to say thank you. Thanks for the responsiveness. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Glad they were able to resolve that so quickly for you.
Thank you.
I think we were all quite intrigued to see where that noise was coming from. Mr. Nagabandi?
Hello, good evening. This is the first time I'm speaking here at the
Welcome.
Town Council. And I'm just here to thank you all, for all your service, what you do. Most of the time, it goes unnoticed. So I took some time and came here to thank you for all your service, like long hours, long meeting, tough decisions, and all in all, your care for the people of Harrisburg and your genuine concerns and inputs and valuable time that you put to make this place a better place to live. So I sincerely, on behalf of my community as well as my friends and family, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much for coming and sharing that with us tonight. Justin Luter?
Good evening, Justin Luter. I'm a resident of Kannapolis. However, I'm here in my duties as the chair of the Black Political Caucus of Cabarrus County. And we just want to express our concerns regarding the same premise that Ms. Sims raised about how this process was handled, making Dr. Banks the mayor pro tem. We're glad that the policy and the tradition has been carried out, but we would like to see that also imaged on our website. And we would also like an explanation as to why it was thought necessary to question that policy that has been in practice for several years, if not longer. Also, we just want to make a statement that the Black Political Caucus endorsed Dr. Banks. So her success, her ability to serve holds both our expectations and our aspirations. So we're going to pay very close attention going forward to how she delegates and does her job, but also how she is treated on this council. We expect that she be treated like every other council person with respect, that she be afforded the responsibilities, duties, respect, and privileges of the mayor pro tem going forward. And we look forward to hearing the great news and accomplishments that she will perform for us as both an organization and more broadly as voters and community members. So we are excited that this issue, we're assuming right now, is put to rest. If it is not, we will be back and we'll come with more people and we'll continue to come and make it difficult for operations to maintain without due process and things going forward. So we wish you all well for a great new year. We personally want to thank Mayor Pro Tem. We look forward to seeing you work. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Luter. I'll go ahead and address this as well. This was actually all put to rest back in January when we went through this process. I have actually spoken with Dr. Banks and also sent a follow-up email. I think we agreed to disagree on that process, but everybody up here has equal power and authority. That's how we should be presenting ourselves in the community, as a collaborative effort. You know, leadership doesn't come with a title. This is a situational and functional appointment. This is not something that someone was elected to. It is not something that you are stepping into unless I am out. That is the only duty of Mayor Pro Tem, is in my absence at one of these meetings, running the meeting. That is it. That's what we discussed in January. That's what I have discussed with Dr. Banks. It does not affect the community at all. It does not affect her role in sitting up here on this dais. They are all treated with equal respect and equal responsibility. Next up, we have Dr. Reverend Jordan.
Mr. Roland Jordan, Ms. Mayor Pro Tem, Manager in town of Harrisburg, I greet you again in the name of Jesus. I'm not worthy to do God's work, but I'm worthy to do the best I can. But anyway, I think it's been about 10 years now. I'm still trying to get a street named Dr. King, Boulevard, Plaza, and I know y'all can do it. Y'all got a good town here. Don't have too much violence here, and that's a blessing. And the good thing about it is you got 2 blacks on the board, praise God. I know Dr. King was very proud of that. That's what he died for, civil rights, human rights, unity. People come together and make a difference, regardless of their color, praise God. I know sometimes color do run in the way sometimes, run away with me, but I have to pray about it, same way y'all have to do, praise God. But actually, treat our people fairly, that's all we ask, praise God. And that's a blessing when we come up with the most voters, traditional. That means the people respect Ms. Banks and others on the board when they have more votes, praise God. So I know y'all can work that out, because it take the power of Jesus. Because for me to love my enemies, it take a lot of prayers, praise God. It's not easy to do, but it can be done. God bless.
Thank you, Reverend Jordan. That concludes the public comment section, so we will move into consent agenda. Is there a motion on the floor to approve consent agenda as presented? I heard motion. Who? Mike? Second? Second. Oh, double second? Yeah. All in favor? Aye. Motion is carried. Thank you so much. Communications reports. We'll start with Rob.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Mayor, as you know, I'm a little bit under the weather this evening. and I do have a presentation at the, at the end, so I'm going to push, most of my stuff off to then, and I relate some of the events and things that are going on. But I also didn't want to blow past the opportunity to take any questions. If you guys had any, I'm happy to answer anything that council has of me this evening. If not, I'll turn it back to you, Mayor.
Great, thank you so much. Next up, we have Brian Lee with our finance report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I have your finance report as of the end of February, which is 2/3 of the way through this fiscal year. So you can see tax collections have reached 98% as of the end of the month. So we're essentially done collecting our real property taxes, have a couple more months of motor vehicles. But again, this year, we should end up at about 101 or 102% of our estimated revenues on property taxes. The general fund overall is at 88%, much in line with where we stood at this point last year, so no concerns there. The water and sewer fund continues to outpace by about 1% per month, and so that has reached 73%. So a really good result there. We do have a couple $100,000 in asset sales this year that's contributing to that, but still the operations of the fund are trending a little bit ahead of schedule. And the stormwater fund is essentially right on target at 66% through the fiscal year. Departmental expenditures over operations are shown at the bottom half of the screen. And you can see that all the departments are ranging there from 60 to 65%, so no concerns across those departments. And the same as we look down across the remaining general fund departments. The water and sewer fund is at 58% and stormwater at 55%. So actually our focus now in the next couple of months before we round out the fiscal year is looking at what projects, initiatives, what things do we actually need to make sure we get off the ground and get under contract and get finished up for the fiscal year, whereas a lot of municipalities are looking at where can we cut off spending right now and pull back on things. So it's good that we get to focus in the other direction. And lastly, on this slide here, salaries at the bottom are at 62%, where we sit 67% of the way through the year. Moving over to our single year project dashboard here. The first to draw your attention to is the branded gateway sign on Rocky River Road. That shows about 40% completion, and that represents the fabrication taking place. So no construction out there yet, but by the end of this month, we should have that sign out on site, getting installed, and then we'll have lighting and landscaping to finish off as well. And then the next one here to show is the artificial turf project at Harrisburg Park. You can see the picture of the field laid out there. This was about a week and a half ago or so when they were getting some of the top dressing on the field there and working on the logos and some of the finer details. So they'll continue that work and a lot of the site restoration over the next several weeks, and then this field will be ready for a ribbon cutting before we know it. Here's a look at our multi-year projects in design. So we had a little movement on a couple of projects, but these two in particular had some public engagement meetings that took place at the beginning of February and the beginning of March. So now that these two have checked that off, they'll incorporate that feedback into the design plan and continue on with design and engineering for these. And now moving over to our projects in construction. We had a couple with movement here, and the first is the traffic mitigation project for Cambridge Drive. The culvert and concrete work have been completed, and then they've graded in that road that you can see there. So we'll have the road connection and the pedestrian connection between Davis Creek and Town Center. Then they'll restore this site, and we'll see what is remaining in this project as we approach the Greenway connection that is the last part of this project. And then also the restroom facility at Holcomb Woods, that contract is on the agenda tonight, so Jim will discuss that later on this evening, but happy to see that one getting off the ground. That one, if approved tonight, should be a pretty quick hitting construction project, and so we hope to have that one finished up by the summer. Here's a look at our equipment projects. We had a couple move here, but no real milestones to report on. And here are our vehicle projects. You see the top grouping of deputy vehicles there shown at 60% completion. So we have a couple of those placed into service, but about, I think, 1 or 2 vehicles left on that grouping. We had a couple other vehicles that are close at the 95 to 99% mark about to be placed in service for the Water and Sewer Department. But notably this month we had 2 deputy vehicles placed into service that you see pictured here. So that finished off 2 groupings of vehicles on this schedule. And it's nice to close out a couple of these vehicle projects for the deputies. These here are not striped because one belongs to an investigator and one belongs to a supervisor, and so these are what these vehicles look like placed into service. Lastly, here's a view of the professional services projects that we have going on right now. We have added the fiscal year 2026 financial audit. That contract was on the consent agenda tonight to get that audit started back up. And then we've got the comprehensive strategic plan that is slightly over 50% complete. And the second open house for that project was held in February at the YMCA, and we had about 50 people show up, as well as staff and many members of council and the consultant, so we had a really good turnout there. In the coming weeks, the consultant will schedule a technical committee meeting with town staff and then also a third steering committee meeting. So a couple more things to come on that project as it moves through the summer. And then lastly, our budget calendar. We're heading into workshop 2 on Saturday, the 21st. That's this upcoming Saturday, where all departments will present to council about their department and what they have planned for the upcoming year. And with that, I welcome any questions you may have.
Just have one question. Fuel prices
Yes.
and our deal with the county sheriff, are we paying the gas bill?
We do pay the fuel. They use our pumps at Public Works.
Okay. And is there any point where that would hit materiality for us, $5, $6, $7 a gallon? And would we ever curtail services, or we just suck it up and keep going?
That is a great question that we have never really had to contemplate
We would suck it up
too
and
much.
we wouldn't curtail services. I mean,
Okay.
we're,
I just don't, you know, I don't even know, if our fuel bill's $100,000 and it goes up 20%, you know, that's,
yeah, I mean, we try to budget it pretty appropriately, but even if it went up 100%, if gas went to $7, we would still provide
Okay.
fire, EMS, everything. We've got
Okay.
that.
Truck's
That's
gonna
less
work.
than contingency, so.
Got it.
There's no scenario where, short of fuel rationing by the federal government, but I've not heard anything like that, so cost wouldn't be prohibitive at all.
And we also buy in wholesale and have it delivered, and so we're not paying anything close to what you see at the pump. We're, 70 cents to $1 cheaper than that. So that helps.
I'll be over to fill up.
No, thank you.
Any other questions for Brian? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Captain Nash with our law enforcement update this evening.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. We'll jump into our February numbers. For our law enforcement-related activities, we had 3,791. And as I was looking through these slides, I noticed something that stood out to me. If you look back to June and July, our numbers were significantly lower, and then it's constantly been an increase. So we've had the upward trend. So I was thinking, what caused that increase? That is when we put our 2 new sergeants into place. So originally, we just had 2 sergeants that were trying to split their time between 4 shifts. So there was a lot of times there weren't supervisors there. So now we have a sergeant on every shift working with their people. And the 2 sergeants we have in place are, when they were on regular patrol, they were traffic guys. They have to stay active. So they've been great mentors to their people and holding them accountable. So I truly think, not just me as we're retiring, I truly think the sergeants are why the numbers have gone up, just the accountability and having the supervisors on shift 24/7. For security checks, we did have a dip in February of 1,700, but you can still see the overall trend upwards since June and July of last year. Traffic stops, we had 1,034, which were pretty close to average there. And then our non-emergency response time, those are numbers that we don't want to see go up. Our ones for February was 7 minutes and 32 seconds. I like for them to stay around 7 minutes, so I did look into why our numbers were higher this month. One example I can give, we had a deputy that was dispatched a call, and he was busy, so another deputy picked that call up from him. And the first deputy was never taken off that call, so they showed en route for an hour and a half. All that goes towards our time. And then another one, we had a wreck in Harrisburg. Our deputy had to do a follow-up on the other side of Charlotte. All those count towards our response times. So once I pulled all those outliers out and looked at them and saw they were legitimate, just kind of out of the ordinary, our response time was right at 7 minutes. So rest assured, our normal response time for normal calls is still around 7 minutes.
Would the snow have had anything to do with that too?
It could have. I mean, The calls, I mean, traffic stops and everything would have been lower, but response time getting somewhere could have had something to do with that. But those two particular calls were just something kind of out of the ordinary that drove the times up. And last month, you asked for year-over-year crime data, so I'm going to provide you some of that. You can see our numbers for 2023, 24, 25, and then year-to-date 26. Crimes against property are usually a law enforcement agency's highest numbers. That's larcenies, breaking and entering, property damage. And I'll give you an example of some of the larcenies we had last month. One was a tag off a car. One was a shovel. So big crime. We also had some laundry detergent taken from CVS and some building supplies taken for a construction site. So within these disciplines, we look to see, is there a trend? Are we having multiple, is there new development going in and we're having building materials stolen? So that might be when we need to look at having our crime reduction unit work some night shifts, putting up cameras, doing more security checks. But for the most part, they're kind of sporadic, but we do address them how we can. And the next slide is the exact same numbers as the previous slide, but it has our 2026 projected data based on the numbers we have so far, and then trends that we've had in the past year. So we look to be on track to be pretty much equal to where we were last year. And then this is the crimes by discipline again, broken down a little bit more. Year-to-date 2026. I will address the kidnapping because everybody, I think we all have visions, dramatic visions of the kidnapping. You're in a dark alley and somebody grabs you and throws you in the trunk of a car. Most kidnappings do not happen that way. This one happened to be two people that knew each other, that were in a car riding around, and the passenger started saying, take me home, and the driver just kept driving. They're still being held against their will, but it's nothing as traumatic as what we all visualize. So I did want to give you a little bit of background on that. Crimes against property, again, are our highest numbers of breaking and enter larcenies. We have had 28 year-to-date. White-collar crime, fraud being the big one. The banks call, get fraudulent checks, or people fall for scams over the phone. Our vice crime, that is one discipline that is really pushed by how active our vice narcotics group is. If this showed 0 drug offenses, that would just simply mean that we're not being active and not arresting people. So we have a great group of people at the sheriff's office that they're out doing the drug deals, looking for the big-time drug dealers, and their arrests have gone up. So they're doing a great job. And then crimes against society, which includes DWIs, and then our non-reportable. And I'll take any questions you have.
On your previous, it was like 4 slides back on stops, September had a high 1,500. It's about 500 more than all the other months. What was going on that month? Was that that's when our newest traffic guy came on, and I think, honestly, I think they were just all excited and out there really working.
Feeling it.
And we also have, the county comes and they do special initiatives. The county traffic is out here several times a week in addition to our traffic units. It could have been they were doing extra during that time. I can find out for sure and let you know, but all that coincides together.
well, that's what I was wondering, if it captures when the county participates with the other municipalities to.
The county is out here every week because they are a county traffic unit. They look at the highest traffic accident areas, which we do have several of those in Harrisburg. So they don't just stay in the county. They're out here at least twice a week doing their initiatives in addition to our traffic officers and deputies. So they share the love with Harrisburg.
Any credence to the ATM theft? I saw rumblings, I guess it was like a week and a half ago, about a van was pulled over and had an ATM.
I don't think that van that was pulled over, they were involved.
Okay.
But they are still looking for who was in the truck, and our detective has been working on that and has some leads. Basically, we think it was someone that stole a truck and then went and tried to pull the A-team off. And they did succeed in pulling it off, but they didn't get any money and they left the truck behind. So we've started backtracking to see who had the truck, and he did report it stolen and trying to trace it that way.
Where was the ATM at?
Chase Bank.
Chase, oh, okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for Captain Nash? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have our fire department update with Chief Dunn.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Evening.
So the fire department report for the month of February, we start off with our fire marshal activities. You can see some site visits, consultation, pre-submittals, some special event planning. As far as fire prevention events, we did hold our quarterly Stop the Bleed class where 8 people in our community did attend. And I'm sure you saw on our social media where we were part of the Duke University's race car teaching CPR to as many people as we can. We partnered with the YMCA on a particular day. We did train 119 people out of the 809 that were trained in Cabarrus County. So a pretty good activity there. To the right on the graph, normal graph, you see where most of his inspections are general site, strip malls, things of that nature. He did complete 27 inspections in the month of February. 20 of those were first, and then 7 re-inspections. And then the graph to the right shows some of the violations that he does find in our community. As far as operational, we did respond to 244 incidents in the month of February. And again, we're reporting in the 90th percentile. If you remember last month, we were about at 7 minutes and 40 seconds. So you see that that did improve greatly to 7 minutes and 13 seconds. We did have 8 fires in the month of February. And to the right top graph, you can see what those were. A couple of them were construction waste fires, vehicle fires, large vegetation fires, and we did have two fires that involved structural involvement or other ways to put that a house. To the bottom left, you can see the property and contents that were saved. That's the value of all those properties together, and then the loss that we did have of those as well. And the majority of that was on the fire that was in Abington. And then with that, that's what we, short and sweet.
Any questions for Chief Dunn? Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you all.
Just a couple mayor comments. The Cabarrus Visitors Bureau, we are in the process of working through a destination strategic plan for the county. This is really an important step to make sure that we're maximizing our visitor dollars and supporting our local chains and businesses. So I will keep you updated as we continue to work on that. Several of council and staff attended the Chamber's legislative breakfast a couple weeks ago. That was a great opportunity to hear from our state legislation as well as hear from several candidates that were running for office in the county. We did have our Highway 49 improvement plan. I think Brian had some great slides and pictures of that in his presentation. We had a great crowd of business owners and residents of that area that came, gave us some great suggestions. So we are continuing to have those public engagement meetings for the entire Highway 49 process, and thank to everyone that was engaged with that. And then lastly, there is Pancake Day benefiting the Boys and Girls Club. That is happening this Thursday. That is an all-day event. If you have not been to that before, I highly encourage you to go. It's pretty spectacular and such a signature event that our county has to support the Boys and Girls Club. It is held at their location in Concord. I believe it's 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. That sounds about right. It's great food. You'll get to see lots of people there. So mark your calendars and come on out on Thursday. And with that, we'll move into council comments.
I have a couple comments. All right. So thank you, Mayor, Council. I do have a couple comments, and I'm going to speak to what was mentioned earlier. It is all, and I'm going to read about prepared comments just so that I don't miss anything. So it's always been my goal to be transparent and to follow the rules and to be collaborative. And I want to address the concerns that have come up to me regarding titles, more specifically the Mayor Pro Tem title not being reflected on the dais or the website. I have since asked these direct questions, as Mayor Teague alluded to her and to our town manager, Rob Donham, about why the plate or the website has not been updated to reflect the vote that was held in January, the appointment that was held in January. That was unanimous. I was told by Mayor Teague that she did not want an appearance of a hierarchy. Well, I agree with the hierarchy piece of that conversation, and I told her that, and that we are an equal board. But whether we agree or disagree, This singular decision by Mayor T is not in alignment with the North Carolina General Statutes, the Harrisburg Charter, or the suggested rules of procedure for Harrisburg Town Council, Part 4, letter C. As a matter of fact, I just recently completed my newly elected official training with the North Carolina School of Government a few weeks ago. That was very, very informative. And I had the opportunity to learn more about governance and procedures and to speak to my colleagues across the state. And I learned that having a title on both the website and the dais is a pretty common practice in Cabarrus County, across the state, and this country. 3 statutes stood out to me more specifically. The first is the North Carolina General Statute, NCGS 160A-70, and it says, as has been mentioned, that the mayor pro tem will step in the absence of the mayor and is otherwise a council member with voting rights. The second statute that stood out to me was NCGS 160-69, and it says that the mayor's position is ceremonial and is one that officiates the meeting and has no voting rights, only in the event to vote to break a tie. And lastly, the statute that stood out to me was NCGS 160A-67, and it says any decision that is made by this council needs to be collectively made by this voting body. All of these statutes that I'm talking about, that I've mentioned here, are in the charter. The Harrisburg Charter, specifically Article 3, Section 3.2, and is also in the suggested rules of procedure of Harrisburg Town Council, Part 4, letter C. No singular person and/or an individual on this voting council gets to make a decision by themselves. We act as one collective body. So despite this change in standard procedure, and yes, I was appointed council member. I was voted on by the people of Harrisburg to be a council person, and I thank you for that. But I was also appointed by this council to be mayor pro tem, which I plan to do fully. I am here to support the mayor, Mayor T, and when and if needed, if she needs me, to do these meetings and to stand and before the committee, the community at any time that's needed. That's what I'm here for. That's why I decided to serve and to run, to serve this community and to do it well. Because my philosophy is if you can't do anything with excellence, we don't do it at all. Lastly, I'm also here to work collaboratively with this council. I actually enjoy the people I'm up here with, and I look forward to working with them the next 4 years. So it is my hope that we can finally resolve these issues and get to the business of Harrisburg and not keep rehashing Groundhog Day, as mentioned. And if anyone has any concerns, again, I campaigned on this and I said it before, I'm about transparency and fairness. And I want Harrisburg to be known to do the right thing and not to be known or have the perception that we're doing anything other than right by our people. And so with that, I want to make sure, because I would be remiss if I didn't say anything. But I also know that on this council, we have former mayor pro tems who have served in this role. And I would just be curious, Council Smith and Councilwoman Glover, on how you feel about it, and if your name was on the dais and or the website, and how you feel about this apparent need to depart from what has been happening before. And thank you for your time in those comments.
I'll jump out on that one. First and foremost, I sent each of you, all the council members, your MPO information for this year, all the road projects that are scheduled for Rowan County Division 9, and then all the road projects for Division 10. Also sent out with that all the acronyms and all the idiosyncrasies that go on in those meetings. You really need that in your back pocket some days, but, and then last one was the transportation conformity plan, which is for the next 20 years. Keep in mind, all that is, somewhere in the wind, right? Because they're out of money for the next 3 to 5 years, so we'll see how that works. They were excited, and I think most are aware that Union Cemetery Road's being reconstructed and fully funded. So that was the big hoo-ha-ha. The last meeting was that it's been such a pain for all these years, and they finally got it moving, and now the rumblings are people being inconvenienced for traffic. So if you have any questions on any of those documents that I sent, please let me know. And Councilwoman Banks, as far as placards and all that, first, I mean, you read the statutes. I want to believe the statutes are, did we honor and appoint a mayor pro tem? Yes, we did. I don't think the statutes apply to the nameplate. That's always been up to the mayor. If you go back to when I got mayor pro tem, honestly, I was surprised I even got it because I was being censured at the time. So if you know anything about what happened with me, I was the odd man out. And for me to get mayor pro tem, I was like, great, okay, whatever that means. I have actually, and I confirmed with Rich the last time this came up, and I'm confused why we continue to go down this path, because this is nothing that the community votes on. This was something that the council made many, many years ago, and it's a council decision. Nameplates are mayor decision, not ours decisions. But I've had the fortunate opportunity to invoke mayor pro tem twice, and it spanned, in both instances, no more than 3 minutes. One was to open up a hurricane meeting for disaster, declaring a disaster because our mayor at the time was hiking a trail somewhere in the Midwest. Opened it up, we declared it, meeting ended, we were done. That was so we could receive funds from the state in the situation of the emergency. The second time was mayor was stuck in traffic. I opened up the meeting. He showed up within a minute and a half after I opened it. And I asked Rich later on, do you remember? And he could not remember the last time it had been used prior to those two instances. So it's not like it's a grand position. And I jokingly said that night, if I went to McDonald's and said I was mayor pro tem, it wouldn't have got me a cup of coffee. You know, to me, I am more proud, and if you know anything about me, I am very proudful about this town. And I take it very seriously, anything that I do. So for me, being a council member, that's the ultimate pride. That's the biggest stamp out there, is to say that I have the capacity to represent these residents, and I do it every day. I mean, Chris, you shared a story with me when I walked in the door. This guy is in Myrtle Beach and runs into somebody that knows me because of what I do on this council.
And they don't live here anymore, and they still follow Ron. I need that.
Right? So I don't, I mean, and Rosa, I forget your last name. I would call
Sims.
Ms. Sims, okay. You know, to me, there was some, this was a Democrat or, I mean, I'm non-affiliated. Some are Democrats, some are Republicans, but I will tell you, none of this has ever been, we vote this way because this person's Republican or this person's Democrat. It disturbs me and irks me so much that when these things come up to us, that we're focusing so much on one stereotype, and it's not. There's no stereotypes in here. There's never a decision made based on a stereotype. For the 12 years that I have served, I promise you, there has never, ever been a stereotype addressed in this room or any decision made on someone's specific belief with regards to their political, whether it's their skin color or anything else. It has always been at the best of whatever the decision was for the community. Councilmember Banks and Mayor Teague, that plaque is between those two. That's not between you and them, that is between these two. I don't know how many times we can say it. You can fill the room time and time again, but that is a mayor decision. If you choose to have that discussion with the mayor, then please have it. But understand, we as a council are not involved in this. This whole dais is the mayor's undertaking, and the seating follows by her and everything else. So, you know, for you to ask me that, I gave you a long answer, but it truly comes from my heart. I never looked at it as it was a placard or anything else. The day I got council member, that was the best thing I could have gotten. So I'll leave it at that.
So I'll answer the question since I was asked. Well, let me start with making a statement. Somebody's gonna have to show me where it says that it's mayor's decision of what a name placard says. I have not read that anywhere. So that'll be important to share. The second part to that is with that, I think it is appropriate. And I understand that I wore this with a badge of honor when I was Mayor Pro Tem. When you're the highest vote getter as a first-time person to run, I think that is something to be proud of. Similarly to what Dr. Banks shared, when I do something, I try to do it incredibly well. So yes, I think it's all, I do believe that the title for Mayor Pro Tem should be there for Dr. Banks on the website as well as here in this room on this dais. And I do believe that, Ron, I think you alluded to, there being some other reason for it. I don't know what the reason is. I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but changing from what you've always done in a town so suddenly, and it leaves people to question the motivation of such. So, I mean, I hear you in what you're saying, but again, the easiest way is let the public know who your highest vote getter was for this election. That's been the premise of which this decision's been made anyway. So why is the question, why the change now?
Well, I mean, it's crazy. Maurice was, the mayor pro tem before you, and then you were the mayor pro tem, and then Councilmember Banks was the mayor pro tem. And I didn't understand why it came up. You had said there was a discussion that you wouldn't be made mayor pro tem. I don't remember that discussion. I don't know who was all involved in it, but I was caught off guard by that because you said that was in your circles, and I never heard that, right? And that was the discussion. I said that night, and I still say it again. I can say I honestly did reach out to Rob right after you were made because there was a concern with the health of the mayor, and I said, given you're so new, it may be a conversation where we let you fill in until everybody was comfortable. Because everybody knows, you need 6 to 8 months up there to paddle before you can really jump in and swim. You sink really quick if you're not careful. But with that, I mean, I don't understand why we've got this churn on this. You said you don't know where it's written. I can tell you what I have experienced. I don't know the official handoff between a mayor, from one mayor to the next, if there is such a thing. But I've served under 2 different mayors, and I've always seen it set up by that mayor. That's, they have part of their duties, whatever it is that's their call, and that's the way I've always interpreted it. So to say, is it written? I don't know that it is written. It's just been, that's the way I've always understood it, but.
Let me just, and thank you, Councilman Smith and Councilwoman Glover, for your experience. And thank you for answering that question so candidly. And let me say, like you, Ron, I am proud to serve Harrisburg. Proud. And was this on my bingo card before? Absolutely not, right? But here I am, and I'm ready to do the work of this community. But I'll also say, similar to what Councilwoman Glover said, I too want to see where it was written, because as I took the time, and I'm going to tell you, I'm a researcher, that's what I do. And I took the time to look at these statutes, and nowhere in there does it say anything about that's the mayor's decision. But what it does say, as I mentioned in my statements, is that any decision that is made collectively as a council, and that the town manager then is directed to do what the council collectively decides to do. And no one person makes a decision, not me, not Mayor T, not anyone on here can make a decision by themselves. That's not why we were elected. We were elected to be transparent, and that's what I'm going to do. And so I just want, and because this departure seems so immediate, it has me to wonder why. Why? It's a placard, and let me tell you, as long as Mayor Teague is here, we're going to be here to support her. It's not going to usurp the procedure and how this meeting is governed doesn't change any of that. So I actually don't understand what the big deal is, right? And that's why I'm mentioning, like, why, and I actually went to our town manager after the last meeting, because I thought it was just timing, like they just didn't get around to it, not that it was all of this. Because trust me, I want to talk about our survey, I want to talk about Highway 49, I want to talk about the connectivity of those trails. That's what I want to come here to talk about. But until we get things right, I'm going to talk about this because that's who I am. And that's why I was elected by the people.
Any other council comments? Okay. We do not have any public hearings, and we do not have any old business tonight, so we will move into new business. And first up, we have Jim Spina. He is going to give us the consideration of the contract with Kell Marketing to construct the restroom facility at Holcomb Woods.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. It's my pleasure to be here tonight to talk about our possibility of adding a restroom shelter facility at our Holcomb Woods Athletic Complex facility. A little background. Excuse me, Holcomb Woods Athletic Complex opened up in the fall of 2021. The town operates that 3.5 acre complex, and we host spring and fall youth soccer there, as well as adult flag football on its 2 fields. The gated parking lot there is open to the public during those program seasons only. The current situation is the Holcomb Woods Athletic Complex does not have a permanent restroom facility. We have employed portable restrooms since its 2021 opening. And since that opening, it's been a very popular place for our programs, and we have welcomed over 30,000 participants, friends, and family members to the Holcomb Woods fields for our youth soccer and adult flag football programs. So let's talk about the restrooms and shelters in our other parks. Adding a permanent restroom facility with a built-in shade structure to our Holcomb Woods facility would give our program participants, residents, and their friends and families a quality structure that matches the facilities that we have in our other parks. And I've given some examples here. If you look on this one right here where I'm pressing the dot on, that's our Shelter 3 facility in Harrisburg Park. The next one here is our shelter facility at Stallings Park. The next one here is our facility at Farm Mill Park. And the last one is our facility at Harris Depot. And one common thing you'll notice is that each one of these have a shelter. They also have a public bathroom here. There's one in the back there, one in the back here, and one in the back here. The only difference between these 4, really the major difference, is that Shelter 3, the Harrisburg one, you enter from the inside of underneath the shelter for the bathrooms. The other 3 all enter around the back of the facility into the bathrooms. And so this is a quick look at what we're looking at constructing out at Holcomb Woods. You can see it's very similar to the ones that we have in our other parks. These will be colored the same as the facility that's in the residence amenity, so it matches into the Holcomb Woods facility. These bathrooms will have the men's room will have 1 urinal and 1 toilet facility, and the female will have 2 2 toilets inside that facility. And you also see we've added water fountains, and we're adding a bottle filler to that too, which will serve well for our participants and our kids playing there. And underneath, you'll see some picnic tables here. This is a concrete pad, and so we're pretty happy with how it looks and how it matches some of our other facilities. And as far as location goes, we've bounced around here with different locations out on the fields. I was lucky enough to have engineering as well as public works and of course my staff out one day to kind of really look at the different ideas that we had. And we came up with 3 potential spots that might work. One of them was right about here in between the playing field and the sidewalk. The negative to that was that it would kind of cut into any future plans that we might have to move something different around in this field. So we kind of thought that's not a bad place. The other concern was what's underneath this field. You know, that was brought in and filled when they built the facility. Another portion over here, we thought it'd be a nice tuck away over the corner. There's a a path here, and with plans from our staff to at some point put in a nice little path in through here a little bit to kind of complete that. But the topography is bad on this. It's very hilly. We would have had to move some earth and move stuff around to do it. The final spot was here. This was kind of our original spot in the first place, and then we kind of start looking at other ones. But this spot is nice. It's between the parking lot and the road here. That's a hill that comes up. For those of you who've been there before, know that the field sits below grade of the community itself. And so the advantages here are, one, it doesn't impact field, doesn't impact parking. Utilities are placed right about here where we can grab water and electric, and sewer is somewhat nearby in here from what I recall. And we also can easily access this from the sidewalk with another little access sidewalk right up to the front of it. And the shelter part will be in this first 2/3 of it, which means if you're under the shelter, you can still see the field and watch the games. And, you know, if your kids are just playing, you can watch and keep an eye on them. So you have a really good access point here. If we put it on the side, we would have had to turn it sideways, and you would probably face this way a little bit. So we really love this spot, and we thought that was the best spot for it. And again, that was made through a discussion between all three departments to come up with the best plan for that location. So the fiscal impact of this contract is approximately $235,000, including a 5% contingency budget. Public Works staff will help us by making those utility connections for water and sewer. The contractor itself, he's responsible for the electric connection. And in total, the project will cost approximately $245,000, which includes the addition of that covered shelter amenity. And with that, I'll take some questions if any of you have them.
Jim, I do have a question. I'm thinking about a father with a 3-year-old girl, and he doesn't necessarily know which room to go in or send her in with a stranger. How much of that 235 or 45 would it take to put a family lockable door for us grandparents and fathers with little girls who want to go to the bathroom and not?
We have a contingency. It's something I guess work with Rob on that a little bit and engineering, I guess. But
Do we have any of those in any of our?
we have a family locker room at Harrisburg Park,
Okay. Where's that one at? Up by the splash pad?
right next to right off the breezeway.
Okay.
Yep.
We have any issues with, I know James, when we did the other shelters, was worried about people kind of locking themselves in there and not having access, but he put key card accesses on those ones in case. But
Yeah, and I did talk to James a little bit about this, and that.
Well, the other doors are
talking about-
unlockable. I mean, you can make them unlockable, but just say occupied or.
Yeah. I don't think it's a big deal when you're in, if you want to turn it, you know.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a big deal to add.
It's a quandary for me when I take my granddaughters out. Please don't have
Don't
to
come in, don't come in.
go anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something I
I've
think.
been there.
Yeah.
Something we can I think that's something we can do easily.
I would be worried about security for that. Like, I know a couple of mills, they have one of these, but it's not like open to everybody. You have to like call security, say, hey, can you unlock it for me? Like, I don't know, especially with the location being far away, you know, having like a lockable one with a complete door might be.
Well, we can work our way through that and come up with
Yeah,
a
I
really
mean,
good
just-
opportunity there for.
Yeah, I don't know if, if it's hundreds of thousands of dollars or, no, it's another 10 grand to fix it. Just something to think about.
And will this shelter be eligible to be rented like the others?
Yes.
So is there any opportunity to move the doors to the bathroom on the side of the building? Because if somebody has that reserved, it feels intrusive to walk up on a
Yeah.
party that's there to use the bathroom.
Good point. One of the concerns we had about the side was access, wrong way, there we go. So close to the parking lot. But that's something we could probably maybe get some concrete or something and put something up there. So something that for sure we could think about. I don't think doors make a difference in the big picture.
And Jim, the look and the feel of that example you had from 3 really looks like the signage at the Y and the signage when you come in town, that stonework. I don't know if that was contemplated that first one there.
From Harrisburg Park.
That looks
The
slick.
one where it says Holcomb Woods?
Yeah.
This,
Oh, that
I don't know if I
this one,
understand,
He's
Chris.
talking about the siding and architecture of it.
Yeah. the
This
brick.
one is built to match Holcomb Woods HOA
Yes.
pool building, so that it kind of meets the theme of that that neighborhood. You know, we could go with the rock water line. It's obviously going to be a little bit more than this. Originally, this was like a $200,000 project, which this all fits well within, if not for adding the shelter. So the change order or the budget amendment that you see tonight is just to add those picnic tables and the overhang shelter.
Mm-hmm.
But it certainly, if it's something that council wants to see is more of that stonework, now's a good time to
Got to
talk
be there
about it.
forever, right?
Jim, the other thing is that, and I have to believe it's already built in there. I was trying to look it up, but I couldn't tell the materials. When we built Harrisburg Park, the flooring was not what we anticipated, and I think you guys went back in the last year or so and changed that out. So would this be built with the newer, more manageable type surface?
Yeah, the flooring is going to be where we can wash it, spray it down, do all that kind of stuff, yeah, so.
Okay.
And there's 4 drains in it, the whole thing. We tried to match up some of the stuff we did with Harrisburg Park.
Thank you.
Yep.
I have a question about the bathroom. Is this going to be locked when it's not when there are not any activities? I'm just asking that because I'm very familiar with
Yes, you
this
are.
area,
Yeah.
and it's a lot of heavy traffic all the time because it's there, right? Even when it's closed. So I'm just curious as to how you're going to manage. Is it going to be locked when it's not in use, when it's not soccer games? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, the plan would be have James come out and do the timers for us, so that we'll just set a timer for it, like we do with Harrisburg Park, all of our other electronic timers.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, that's part of the contingency and different things we're going to do. Couldn't get a really, I know James has got some ideas of changing things around, so he and I have spoken.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I do like on your plan that you're not taking up any of the parking spaces because, like, I know parking gets really tight, especially if both fields are being played. And also, if that continues, I think that's great, but then also if there's any additional dirt or something, if they can even out some of the banks potentially, because I know people with trucks especially can park on the sides if there's no parking, you know, make it a little more. Yeah, like on the sides, like, if they need to put that dirt somewhere, like, just kind of keep in mind that, I don't think you can expand the parking lot, but maybe use that as an opportunity to,
Yeah.
you know, give people a little more room to park.
We've recognized over the last couple of years of the problems we have with parking. I've met with actually the HOA to discuss further as to how we can remedy that. One of the ways, and it's been better, it still can be crazy sometimes, but it's a lot better because what we've done, we've built in more time in between games to get people in and out of there. Because last thing we want is people up here, and they'll park right up here along the road, and they'll park in the amenity, which isn't usually so bad because when we're playing, the amenity's not open necessarily, but it is at the beginning of one season and at the end of the other. So we try to keep them out of there. It's been much better. We've even talked to the contractor about his ability that he cannot use this to stage anything. He's got to find a place to stage outside of the parking lot because we can't afford, if we do that, which the plan is to start this as soon as we can. And our season will be, games will start here in another 3 weeks or so. So we've talked to them about that. So we've kind of taken that into consideration of making sure we're friendly to the community.
I have a question, Jim.
Yes.
There's a grade coming off the road? Is that
Yeah,
correct?
yes, it goes down to the parking lot, correct.
Okay. And so this would be at the bottom of that grade. Is there any potential water runoff issues or?
Yeah, that was a huge question for us for engineering and public works. We went out there and they felt that it wouldn't be significant enough and that we would probably build that foundation just a little higher, just in case you get a really heavy rain or something, but they didn't feel, that was one of the concerns we had to start thinking about moving it over here. But when we met with engineering and public works, they all felt very comfortable that that would handle any problems.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Jim? Okay, thanks, Jim, for presenting that. With that, is there a motion to approve a contract with Kell Marketing for approximately $235,000 to construct a restroom and shelter facility at the Holcomb Woods Athletic Complex? Motion, is there a second? All in
Before you
favor?
get a full vote, Mayor, we did have some discussion there about, did we want to do a brick water line or a stone
Okay.
water line? or are we okay leaving it matching the pool house? It'd be that kind of,
Would that change the?
it's going to change the
Amount.
price. I mean, it's.
Well, I saw the word approximately. I just want you guys to have a flexible, approximately $100 billion.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to be $100,000, but it's going to be, probably 15 to.
So what you
20.
guys had it constructed at meets with HOA for
It
Holcomb?
will match the HOA's amenity building, which sits up
Okay.
above, just above the fields.
Yeah, I just want you guys to have the flexibility to, if you want to do the things that we said, and it's 10 grand more, I don't know if approximately is,
Covers that.
right, so you don't have to come back.
You say, I mean, if, and I might be, stepping on Brian's toes here.
Here comes
If you want
money.
to amend that motion to add a little bit, add another 20 on
The
there.
approximate
and let
is
us-
extremely small on this one.
Good to know.
You would want to change your motion to add some amount to the contract, and then we would do a related budget amendment to make that work. So whatever you feel you want to add to the contract, we can make the rest of it work.
Can you give us a number?
extremely small mean?
Oh, $100.
Oh.
Yes.
Negligible.
It has a contingency built into it, and we have an amount of money in that budget for the utility connection. But the actual contract with the contractor is like $234,900.
Yeah.
So there's nothing else there.
Yeah, but, I would say, add 25 to 30 if that's something you're comfortable with. We would go back to the contractor, look for design for stone and brick to add masonry, probably 3 foot high or 2.5 foot. If it exceeds that, we'd have to come
Okay,
back.
and
to-
you can certainly go under and still get.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Question though, if we want to do that, does that design change have to go back through their HOA?
We didn't go to the HOA for the design.
Okay.
It's our property, and it sits below the community.
You're just doing it
anyways.
as a courtesy
As
to
a
make it
courtesy,
match?
correct.
Okay.
But I think if, along that same line, not the HOA, but I think if you're making that change, you need to make a greater change and say, going forward, this will be the design structure for
Like-
all
I think our
park facilities.
Our intent here is that we theme each park, right? So in Harrisburg Park, everything looks like Harrisburg Park. But if you go out to Farm Mill, we have a lot of natural materials. We're talking about playgrounds that are more integrated with the canopy, the tree canopy, and all that. Out here, it was, okay, let's make it look like the community. Now, we can certainly make it look like Harrisburg Park if that's what it is, but this wouldn't be appropriate at Farm Mill
Right.
to go with a more masonry. We would want more natural woods and things like that. So we tried to meet that intent with this of just saying, let's make it look like Holcomb specifically, but you can kind of see each one looks.
Yeah, here's
A
the,
little
I put those
different.
back up so you can see the different looks.
But
I think we've
I agree with
missed-
Councilman Fall that, Harrisburg Park's the prettiest, right? I mean, that's the
Beautiful.
one I like too.
Yeah.
Now I'm biased because I picked that, but
But it's not
It was supposed to
consistent
be
through any of our parks.
a cricket field.
Yeah.
No.
And it's a.
no, they're all
it's not a full
themed
men's or
slightly
women's.
different. If you look at Harris Depot, that's going to look more like
Men can still play.
a historic
Still do cricket on it.
post office and
This is just to
depot.
fill in finally those.
I just want to add that I know that this is town property, but I think it would be courteous if we talk to the HOA just to let them know what's coming and what it looks like, just as a nice gesture. Even though we know, that this is town property, I think it would just be nice for them to know so that, that everybody's happy, just as a recommendation.
So I would be in favor of this if we can put in that amount of money to give you guys whatever,
And I guarantee you.
and then you can come in under if you want.
So 260?
Yeah, so if you
would
use
be-
260 in that motion, then it would be 260 on the contract, 275 on the project budget overall.
Sounds like you had a motion from Chris.
Yep, yeah.
Amended motion.
Amended
I
motion.
still think you need a second.
To approve for 260. Second, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you.
Thank you, council.
Next, we have Devin, and he is going to give us the consideration of a change order 1 with Kimley Horn for professional design services contract for the Hickory Ridge Road sidewalk project.
It's overkill.
Good evening, Mayor and members of council. As Mayor said, this is the consideration for the first change order for the Hickory Ridge Road, hopefully the last. sidewalk design. Just as a refresher of what this project is, it's the sidewalk connection that's going to start right in front of the middle school. It's going to run down Hickory Ridge Road up to Stallings and make that turn there and then connect over to the Harrisburg Veterans Road intersection and make that nice connection going up that road. And this was originally approved, the contract for design was originally approved back in March 2025. So the way these contracts works, the design contracts, they're just, the scope of the design and everything is based off of the known conditions. No field studies or surveys have been done, so we have to base it on what we know. And the consultant did do that. It's been reviewed and everything. And then we've now started those field studies and done that survey, and we found new information. We've also submitted multiple times through DOT and received comments from them. And through that process, we found out new information we didn't have before that needs to be addressed, which was not included in the original scope. So as that comes additional work, and we have to come and ask for additional work to be added to the scope, which comes with additional costs, unfortunately. So in order to move this forward and get through to the final design, we're going to adjust the scope of services to account for some additional engineering costs, right? This will include just some additional drainage work that's going to help us avoid any costly impacts to some additional impacts to the Duke Energy poles out there. There's also been some stuff that we found at the bridge itself, the water line impacts, some encasement that's going to need to happen to the water lines out there, and then the abutments for the bridge, just some impacts to the utilities out there, and there are some poles that, based on the footprint of the pedestrian bridge, that will have to move. That the original assumption is we weren't going to have to move those. So all that means there's additional utility coordination through Duke that also is part of this change order. So all that's included. So our fiscal impact for this through the town, because this is a grant project, it is 80% refundable. Our total impact for this specific change order is only going to be about $5,900 to the town. NCDOT has already reviewed and approved the scope here and these fees that are associated with it, so it is eligible for that grant reimbursement. So it is already vetted by them and reviewed, and the next step is to get it to the contractor so they can start and do these revisions and get us onward to the final plans. And so our recommendation is just that. Let's get this change order one approved so we can get the professional, the designer through and get this approved.
Are there any questions for Devin on the project?
Go ahead.
My question is, will this project speed up the likelihood of the crosswalk, or speed up the crosswalk being there? Will it slow down the crosswalk, where the kids cross going over to,
Bridgepoint.
Thank you, Bridgepoint?
So this image right...
Is that not going to connect? Or did I look at the image wrong?
This image right here is this is actually from the plans. This is included in these plans, yes ma'am.
Okay.
So when this project is constructed, this is actually the rectangular rapid flashing beacon. That's so hard to say, the RFB. And that is part of this design. So at that intersection will be this 10-foot wide crossing. It's actually got a pedestrian refuge there in the middle of Hickory Ridge Road.
And so the cost of this is low because this was already a council project that we were...
It's a grant.
Right.
I'm sorry?
Okay.
The grant,
Well,
so...
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
The grant it's a federal grant, so this project was awarded for a certain amount, and 80% of that amount is covered for the federal, and 20% is the town's, yes ma'am. So this is just part of the design that's being incorporated into the overall project design.
Okay. No, that makes sense. We've just been talking about that crosswalk for a long time.
Right, so it's incorporated as part of this, so once this project gets through construction, it'll be part of that. And this is part of what they'll be finalizing in the design, and we'll go through to the final.
Do we have a verbal from NCDOT on this one? Because
they wouldn't before.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. In the past, they've not been in favor of this. That's why I'm like, I don't want us to go spend the money if we know we're going to hit a brick wall continuously with NCDOT on this. I know we have changed in our representation from the bottom to the top in the NCDOT. So these guys may be malleable in their decision for this, but do we know if they'll even entertain this right now?
The project,
The crosswalk.
this was actually, the pedestrian refuge was actually one thing that they said that we had to include.
Okay.
The RFB, was part of the scope, and there were a few comments prior to me taking over this. I don't know if it was something that we proposed or something they required, but there's a conversation. So as far as all of this is, they're on board with.
Because
the
we, I mean,
reviewers
in
and
the
everything. Yes,
past,
sir.
we have advised the residents that had wanted that we were challenged by NCDOT because they wouldn't allow it. So I just wanted to make sure if we're moving forward on it, that one, it would be allowed, so we're not wasting our funds.
This portion of the design has been reviewed so far. We're at roughly, so we're between 30 and 70. 75 has been submitted % plans. This was commented on in 30% plans, and they were good with the responses in the design. And then the 75% plans were submitted to address some of the comments on the 30%, and that's where what was done wasn't fully acceptable, so that's where this change order kind of came in place. And this part has been acceptable up to this point, so I don't foresee any further issues or comments
The
pertaining
other
to
question I
this.
have is when you first started your presentation, your first slide was the overarching image of all the sidewalk. Keep going back. Yeah, so where's the sidewalk going to be on Stallings that would connect to Hickory Ridge? Is it on the side of Veterans, or is it on the side of Hickory Ridge?
So it's gonna run up to the intersection, roughly where the guardrail is.
Yep.
In front of the two white houses. And then there'll be a crossing across Stallings to get to Veterans. And forgive me, I'm trying to picture where the sidewalk is on the other side of the intersection.
Yeah, you've got
Like-
sidewalks that go, if you're at Veterans, you're at the T, you got sidewalks on the left side that go towards the park.
Right.
So my question is if you're building, so are you gonna put sidewalks that are on the opposite side of the road there, or are you gonna go on this side now and go down that way? Because if you're building or pricing out or getting these crossings, you're gonna need one there too. So
So
let's do two.
This scope of this project includes stopping at the intersection and then the crossing across Stallings Road to get to what exists on the Harrisburg Veteran side. It doesn't continue beyond the intersection along Stallings. So that's not included in the scope of this project. That would be a future scope project.
There's no sidewalk there now at all.
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm trying to understand what direction we're going with this. I mean, because if you go on the side where the guardrail is, there's really no land there for a sidewalk, to be honest. I mean, it's straight down, and every car that's gone over that has proved that. If you go back the other way, there is some land, but you're still creating a crosswalk at Hickory Ridge and Stallings at Covenant Church, which is just ugly in itself, too. But there is a stoplight there, so you have that in your favor.
Right, we would love sidewalk everywhere.
Yeah.
When this was scoped, I imagine, I wasn't here at that time, but I imagine we get what we would like to scope, and that makes sense at the time. And this is a great little scoping here. It makes a good connection, and then those next ones may be a little bit more challenging and would come in the future, and we'd see what we can work into another project.
Yeah, I just wanted to see if we could combine any efforts and get the most bang for our buck, and if we're getting one design, can we get another design? But I get it.
But this shows it connecting at Veterans. So I think the question is, where's the sidewalk on Stallings?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to understand.
Because there's
Right.
not existing sidewalk on either side of the road there.
Well, there is on your side, on the Stallings Park side, there is a sidewalk.
But
Yeah, 'cause it
this
comes down-
section, there's not.
Right. That's what I'm trying to understand is where he's saying it ends at Veterans.
But there's a sidewalk over the bridge.
Yeah,
Yes.
on both sides.
Both sides.
On both sides.
There's a sidewalk on the north side of Stallings.
Yeah, so there's a sidewalk that goes to the park, but there's not a sidewalk that goes towards Hickory Ridge. And that's what I'm asking, are you going to go to the guardrail side, or are you going to go,
It looks like it's on the guardrail side, the south side, and then would cross at Veterans. Is that correct?
Yeah, so this sidewalk is on the south side, so it's on the guardrail side, and it runs up to the Harrisburg Veterans intersection. And then if you wanted to get to the park, you would cross Stallings and then cross over.
a different argument, different day,
apologize.
but goodness gracious. That guardrail and a sidewalk is just, there's not enough land for the two.
Right, the sidewalk doesn't cross in front of the guardrail, it stops before it gets to that guardrail. So if you pull up, if you're on Stallings and you pull up to the intersection, like you're gonna go to the park, and you're sitting at the stop bar at that
Yeah.
light, waiting to go straight,
Right.
you're gonna be stopped at the crosswalk that the sidewalk stops at. So you'll look to your right, and there'll be the sidewalk, and then the ramp that's where the sidewalk will terminate, and you'll cross over to get to Harrisburg Veterans. So it'll be that'll be the Hickory Ridge side of the the Stallings, the Harrisburg Veterans intersection that the sidewalk will be on.
And a pedestrian light will be incorporated into the existing light also? Like, little hand and stuff?
Does it, I'm wondering, does that intersection already have a?
It has a
Like,
crosswalk.
There are signal.
There will be, there'll have to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's signal changes incorporated in the scope. So. Any other
Motion to
questions?
approve.
There's a motion to approve the change order for the Hickory Ridge sidewalk in the amount not to exceed $29,600. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you, Devin. Next up, we have consideration of the contract with Lumen Strategies for legislative advocacy and education. And Rob is going to present that to us this evening.
Thank you, Jim. All right. Can everybody hear me with the mask still on? I can pull it off, but I think the second to last thing we have here is a contract for your consideration with Lumen Strategies for legislative advocacy and education. First thing I always like to go through is understand, the purpose of why do we need something? How does it meet our goals? What have we been challenged with to do? So in getting our legislative advocacy consultant on board, that specifically meets our strategic goal number 5, which is the town of Harrisburg will actively plan for our future with compassion and respect for our heritage, specifically including serving as an advocate for the community. I think one of the things that we've talked about as a group up here is that we're under a constant barrage of legislative changes that we can't keep up with. We're reactive to them. We're doing resolutions quite often. We have a great relationship with our local legislative contingent, but in order to really understand what's going on in a timely manner and to be able to advocate for our residents, we really need a consultant on board that can help us do that, that's doing that day to day. We also discussed in our priorities, the manager and council priorities, a specific need to develop that advocacy plan and to have a strategy. And to have that strategy for the legislative priorities coming up in the future budget session. So this partnership really delivers that clear strategy, also gives us active representation in Raleigh, as well as DC, and public communication, those educational materials, the briefings, the outreach, so that we can then communicate that back to our residents so that they understand how their daily life is being affected by the decisions in Raleigh or in DC. We obviously know we're a growing community. We're proud of our growth, but we're also proud that we have one of the lowest full-service tax rates in the region. In order to keep kind of both of those things as core values of ours, we have to prioritize our money in a smart way, right? So that rapid growth, it puts, you've seen it tonight, all these competing interests that we have on infrastructure, public safety, service demands. We also have, and I think you guys have seen this the most in the town council, this increasingly, I'm going to use hostile, attack on home rule in municipalities. We're a Dillon rule state, so we can only do what the legislature says we can do. But it seems every new session, there's more things that tie the hands of the local community, prohibiting us from providing the services that the residents ask for on a daily basis. So federal grant opportunities are also something that will require that proactive engagement. We can't react to some of these grant opportunities. We have to have our strategy, and we have to be ready well ahead of time so that we know what we're advocating for. And then here's a list of just some of those projects that we're looking at. The Amtrak station, Caldwell Road extension. You heard some things about utility relocation costs. Public safety expansion. We'll be doing Fire Station 1 in a few years. I'm not sure where it's at on the CIP, but that's like a $14 million project. And the state legislature loves to tell us how they really support public safety, so we'd like to go after and make sure that they're putting their money behind public safety just like our residents are. Next, I'm going to ask Sarah, who some of you have met. She presented at the legislative breakfast and also represents Central Iowa Regional Council of Governments. Sarah's our representative on Lumen, who I'll be dealing with day to day. And I just ask her to kind of go through 2 slides here and tell us all about Lumen.
Sure. Good evening, Mayor Teague, Council, Mr. Donham. Thank you so much for having me here, and thank you for your consideration of this contract. So I am Sarah Principe, Vice President of Advocacy for Lumen Strategies. We're a strategic communications and advocacy firm. We have worked with a lot of chambers of commerce, several nonprofit entities, as well as municipal clients. We track legislation, we do lobbying. We really help our clients strategize and come up with an advocacy program. So we just do a range of services in regard to government affairs and advocacy. I'll just start with myself. My municipal background is with the City of Hickory. I worked for them as an employee for almost 12 years in various capacities, so I learned municipal government really well. And prior to that, I was actually, right out of college, I went to DC, and I was up there for about 8 years working for the U.S. Senate Sergeant at Arms. So I started with some federal service, I grew up in North Carolina, so I came home, worked for the City of Hickory, and I really fell in love with local government. That is truly my passion. But I've also really been involved at the state level between lobbying and being a legislative liaison, so really familiar with all 3 branches. And it's really just a privilege to be able to serve in this capacity. This is such a marriage of all of my interests, so it's a great job. So that's a little bit about me, but I do want to introduce the team. One of the best things about our firm is that we are a package deal. You get all 4 of us. And while, should you move forward with this contract, I will be likely be who you see most often, but you have full access to all of our team members who bring a variety of experience. Brian Fox is our president and CEO. He was a longtime congressional staffer and was also the VP of Public Policy for the Greater Durham Chamber for several years. And so he is our newest member, but he has come on. He is actually the owner of the company, president and CEO, so we've enjoyed working with him. Brittany Burton, she is our Director of Communications and Advocacy, and she is all things communications. She has handled multiple strategic communications clients, and she's also now doing some of our advocacy work as well. Brian Francis is our strategic advisor, and he was actually the founder of our company, but he has since scaled back his role and serves in a strategic advisor capacity. And so we are pleased with all of the experience that he brings to our team. He worked for Mecklenburg County, the former vice president of public policy programs at the Charlotte Chamber of Commerce, is very well versed in public policy generally. So I hope that you feel like you are getting an experienced team. And like I said, we all work together really well.
Thank you, Sarah. And I'm going to go through just some of what we get as far as our comprehensive advocacy and engagement. And, you know, we were so fortunate to just kind of happen into Lumen. We were looking for lobbyists for Raleigh and had interviewed some, and just there wasn't really a good fit. And I actually knew Brian Francis because he represented the regional chamber locally. And I didn't realize Brian was doing local government stuff, and asked him for a reference, and he said, "Oh, we've got Sarah's the best." So that one thing led to another, and we looked at different options of what they're able to do. And I really think it's important to have a comprehensive advocacy plan. The value is a really good value, but when we talk about, you know, our different options, I think that, you know, we are a full service community. We have a lot of irons in the fire, and this partnership gives us state and federal legislation tracking, weekly updates, custom legislative trackers, setting a biannual agenda, representing us in DC and in Raleigh as a lobbyist, as well as attending committee hearings on our behalf. So, you know, we can't travel to Raleigh every time they're having these committees. Fortunately, Lumen has a team where one of them will be there, and they're able to give us quick updates. And when I say quick, I mean hours. And we're not, you know, I don't know how they do it, but they really stay on top of it, as well as representing their town with legislators, maybe that aren't our local contingent. I think our local contingent is best if we interact with them, and Lumen had that same perception to say, look, you guys have the best connections with your local folks, but you know, our local folks aren't always in a position of leadership in Raleigh. So having somebody in Raleigh that can attend those committee hearings, represent the town, advocate for different appropriations, and then finally on the far right you see more of the engaging the congressional delegation, drafting bills if we want to put a bill in, they can help us draft that. And then I think most importantly, the educational content and the kind of council management community briefings, and having that constant education back to us so that we know what's going on before it's going on. And then we can communicate that back out to our community, who can then reach out to their legislators, or we can reach out on their behalf, or we can do our resolutions. But in order for us to advocate effectively, I think we need a great partner on this, and Lumen just really checked all the boxes. I'm going to skip over some of this and hit the highlights, but we're looking for a 24-month contract on this, and that's really important because our budgets are on 2-year budgets. Now we'll be wrapping up, we should have wrapped up this budget quite a while ago, but we anticipate really diving into the next budget. So having these folks on board so that the short session, we can get a plan together, and then ultimately when the long session comes the year after, we'll be well positioned for appropriations, for any type of bill changes that we want to do. And ultimately I see this partnership where we have Lumen Strategies, who's interviewing and dealing with staff and what our needs are in a legislative, but also dealing with management and council on, you know, our priorities, which might be different. You know, Shelley is going to have things in planning that we're not aware of, and I think so that's important to have that full team engaged. Here's an example of some of our kind of buckets of utility costs and home rule. These are all things that we would put together as part of our strategy with Lumen. And then the 24-month engagement would really start now, end in March of 28. And you can see, you know, we would have constant contact with the educational piece, but really gearing up for that phase 2 long session. And then really we'd come back and regroup in between sessions and come up with a new strategy, see where we were successful, see where, you know, we have opportunities, and really comes at a great value. You know, not everyone is doing advocacy. I think communities like ours, who are high growth communities, it's really not an option. If we want to be successful here locally, we have to be successful in Raleigh, we have to be successful in DC. So this contract annually works out to 0.1% of Harrisburg's operations and capital budget. I think it's money well spent. One or two projects that our local residents may not have to pay for, if we were able to get an earmark, would more than pay for this. But again, more importantly, that outreach, that education, that understanding how Raleigh and DC affect our community is something that we don't have currently, and we really need as part of our team. So I'm going to open it up for questions. Obviously, our recommendation you guys have in your packet is to enter into a contract with Lumen Strategies, register as state and federal lobbyists for the town.
So, Rob, we know how North Carolina works. Municipalities often compete for the same amount of money, same bucket. How does this work? Or if Lumen is representing another municipality that's on the opposite side of the spectrum, you know, you're going to go talk to this legislator, and they're a key voter. Harrisburg wants it this way, this municipality wants it this way, they're polar opposites. How are you advocating on both? Or in that other scenario, how are you advocating if we're both going after the same amount of money? Who gets priority in that space?
Sure, that's an excellent question. And I'll be honest, we're a very small firm, and so far, we really have not run into that yet, but I see that as very likely something that could happen. We are really big on transparency, and so as soon as we realize that there is an issue, we will come to you with that concern as well as our other clients, and we will figure it out. I know that's not a great answer, but whether it is we have someone else lobby who is not me, but conflict of interest is very important, and that can't be overstated. So we do realize that there could be the potential for that. It has not happened yet, but our first step would purely just be to point it out to you as well as our other clients, and then we'll talk about how to move forward.
Would, in the aspect of when we're competing for the same dollars, if you've got a municipality that you're in contract with that's also competing for those dollars, would you be transparent enough to tell us that you have another interest that also is competing? I mean,
absolutely.
So that we understand.
Number one, we want to make sure that everyone knows, where we are, what we are working on, so that there is no wondering or no backroom deals are going on. We will be very upfront about
right.
it.
I mean,
for sure.
like with the MPO today, Salisbury, Concord, Harrisburg, we all compete for the same dollars, right? And a lot of it is who's ahead of the game, who's got the parts and pieces in place. So Harrisburg's done a very good job about having projects ready to go. So the first one to the finish line often is the one that gets the higher rank and all of that, the one that's ready to go. And that, I guess that's the other side of it is would you be giving us insight early enough on so we could be prepared on these things so that we are ready to compete?
Sure, absolutely. As soon as I get information, I will relay that to the manager's office. And you're correct. It's important to be prepared early on so that you can jump when you need to. And so that will be a big part of our role, is making sure that you have that information so that you can move forward appropriately.
And I'll add that one of the deciding factors in selecting Lumen was that they represent like clients. So Central Iowa Regional Council of Governments, who we're a member of, the Chamber, who we're a member of, right? So there's a lot of synergy in who they represent. There were some that we had spoken to that also represent a lot of local cities. And it's like, well, there's probably more of a likelihood that we're going to end up in that scenario. Now, generally, when we talk about legislation, what's bad for a city is bad for a city is bad for a city, right? We very rarely are at odds where one city wants down zoning and another doesn't, right? It's generally cities are all on board with each other on legislation. When it comes to earmarks, those appropriations are an entirely another animal, and I think what Lumen brings on that side is just what you mentioned, getting us prepared so that we understand what's the decision criteria and making sure that we're well positioned for that. I don't think there's a lot to be done, as Sarah said, with like backroom deals, right? You're not up in Raleigh slipping something in at the last minute. we're going to be asking our local legislators to do that. But what do we have to have in place here? I think that's what Sarah and her team can help us be successful and similar as we were successful.
I think that
in
goes
MPF.
both ways. I mean, if we educate you on what we have sitting on the shelf ready to go, that if you're in conversations and you're hearing, you know, this is coming available or there's going to be these opportunities, you can be like, oh, I know a guy, right? That I know a town that has these things in their bucket of what they want in their wish list. I mean, we have several things that are sitting on the shelf kind of waiting to go for these opportunities.
So my questions are strictly as it relates to the state, not any federal legislation or lobbying being done there. When I look at this list of the things that we'd be getting, more than half of them are things that the league already does for us. So I'm not convinced this is a good use of our money. And I know you're talking about, like, yeah, they'll serve as an advocate, and the first thing that came to mind was the downzoning bill. Well, that was 131 pages that was passed on the first read. There was nothing a lobbyist could have done to help us there. And we did pass a resolution for the housing affordability piece. I would say lobbyists probably were helpful there. I don't know that a private lobbyist for us would have been as beneficial because the league provides us updates. I get a weekly update, and if there's something quick that's coming out, I get an update like when they're in session. They're really good about sending out their communications. So I'm not understanding like what the difference is.
I don't think
in the
those-
level of service.
I don't think the league provides things, to me, I appreciate the league, and they send out broad statewide stuff, but many of the bills that we've passed resolutions on here weren't in the league update. And the league represents a big group of individuals. We're not a big fish in that pond. We're not Raleigh, we're not Charlotte, we're not Greensboro, you know.
I mean, that's fair, but municipalities of our size typically don't have their own firm.
I don't think most do.
Right.
Most of the communities are not interested in advocacy or getting appropriations. But I will say, you know, take Midland, who's right next to us, for an example. They have one. They had $11 million in the last budget.
I mean, that's fair, but also that special use funding is gone. And there's all indication to say that we're probably not going to get that if we ever get a budget. I understand we don't have
I think we're
one.
talking about the next budget. So
But
this
still,
one, maybe
you know.
something happens in it, but I think when you look at the next budget cycle, being prepared to understand what's next, what bills are coming through that are going to hamper us. I had a conversation this morning about the elimination of parking, right? So I'm looking into that, I'm pulling all that. We don't have staff locally that can spend the amount of time that Lumen Strategies would understanding how do these bills affect us, what can be moved, what can't be moved. If I reach out to the league, they're not our they'll say, well, we'll pass it on to our lobbyist. So certainly we're represented by the league, Centralina, Chamber. There are folks that we have similarities with. But I think with the amount of demand that this council has and has set this as a goal, saying we want to be out front on this, then
But
you have to
what are
have
we
it.
out front on? Are we, like, do we have a special project that we're working on? Are we just looking for communication?
Yes.
Like, I mean, this, the
Yeah.
list that you sent us,
Yeah, I think
that was
all
in our
of-
packet.
I think
but
all
that's
of these
federal,
projects.
Right, because we talk a lot about this train station.
Yeah, that we need $9 million for the train station. We've lobbied for that ourselves, and we've come pretty
Again,
close.
but my questions are specific to state, not anything federal.
Yeah, this is for state. We lobbied at the state level, went to
Mhm.
Senator Newton's office and said, hey, you know, let's kick this can, apply for federal, get denied at federal, then come back for a state appropriation. I think that's where Lumen Strategies would help us with that.
I say, if I can also weigh in on that. I love the League of Municipalities. We have a great relationship with them. I know their staff, and they do a great job, certainly. But what they can't do in representing an entire state of municipalities is really look at each one uniquely, and look at your individual projects or what your specific priorities are, because sure, a lot of them will be the same. There will be some overlap, especially when we're talking about these development bills and the municipal authority and all of those things. And so certainly having the league as an advocate is a positive, but we can bring just additional, uniqueness and personalization to your town that the league just isn't capable of doing because they can't do that for every municipality in the state. I think.
Yeah,
we-
I'm sorry,
Oh,
Sarah.
no, go ahead.
I was going to say, I pulled up the options to kind of show some of the things. Like, yes, the league has a legislative tracker, but it's not unique to us. We really care about high-growth towns. The things like, the parking and stuff will end up in there. But there were a lot of things we were out in front of the league and to everybody else, like House Bill, I forget what it was.
765.
There you go. House Bill 765, I think we were the first in the state to pass a resolution because our staff found it. And, having that custom legislative tracker, the biannual legislative agenda, like that's going to be your agenda, not the state's agenda. So it becomes very unique to this town council.
I think it's a really good idea, and I think that we're basically getting at a cost of like less than one employee that would be knowledgeable in this kind of work.
Our healthcare is like $30,000 a year.
And then, yeah, and then the other thing is I do like the length of the contract, so it's long enough for us to kind of try it and then see what the results are and kind of do a debrief after and just see if we've gotten anything out of it or not.
Yeah.
And I think it's,
And all of these
the price is manageable.
I'm sorry, in all of these contracts, we can separate it at any time. I mean, Lumen doesn't want a client that they're not getting along with, and the town doesn't, want to have an advocacy group that isn't doing the town's work. So those are always built into here where they're very easy to break loose. Why I put the 2-year in is we really want to commit to having a legislative agenda, and we're not going to get everything done in the short session. It's really going to start in the short session and move into the long session.
Mm-hmm.
So we probably will see dividends on this at 18 months, at 20 months, outside of the public education and engagement, which I think is fantastic.
To what Councilwoman Glover says, though, you referenced that we're a small town, and, the beauty that we are a small town, but we are head and shoulders above many others that are our same size today. And I say that with regards to, there are a lot of municipalities that are struggling today, and we have, through grit and grime and digging, made this town, in the financial position that it is. From one that has sat here for 12 years, I can tell you, we went from, that would be nice to have, to, okay, now we're competing. And then, just, and I'll reference the MPO stuff, just sitting in a room knowing you're beating out Salisbury and Concord, and they're actually bragging on Harrisburg, and the work that Harrisburg's been doing is an amazing feeling to be sitting in that room going, but Salisbury's 3 times the size of us. Concord's probably 4 or 5 times the size of us, and we're getting the accolades. I mean, I think it's dovetailing into where we've been, on that path, that trajectory that we're on. I mean, I'm kind of with Councilwoman Cottell on this one, that I think it's a good fit for where we've been and where we're headed. But
Yeah, I mean, and I want to be clear, like, I want us to have the advocacy, and also, just because we have it to spend doesn't mean that we should. So when we look at what it costs, I looked it up. This is more than what the league pays for their contractual lobbyists.
Yeah, I don't know.
So I
do not know what
expect
the
a
league pays.
significant delivery, like if we're going to pay more than what they're paying for their lobbyists. So again, I think that it would be worth, I'm concerned about paying for double services.
Yeah, there are cheaper options. I personally,
No, I'm not saying cheaper.
I'm saying even here, like option 1, 2, and 3, we're cheaper. My recommendation, based on what y'all have presented to me, to say, here's what we want to do on advocacy, here's the projects we want to go after, here's the legislation that we want to be ahead of, that we want our council going to Raleigh and advocating for us. We want you guys getting more involved with this outreach and networking. I think this is a very good value. Now, that's up to the board. If we don't want to do advocacy.
Listen, I think Councilman Smith ticked it off correctly. If you're advocating for us, that's great. But if we're carrying the water for Mount Holly or somebody else, like, why am I paying for that? This needs to be Harrisburg specific, because I'm sure there's plenty of advocacy going on if our needs are the same as Fayetteville or, whatever. The other thing, I think, when you say plan Raleigh and DC trips, I think our mayor's a wonderful representative. Is that all baked in? We'll have our town manager there. Nobody can tell our story like we can. You have to point us in the right direction. Don't talk to him, talk to her, follow me. Sounds like you've lived on K Street for a little while, so you know how that works. But I want us to get, also similar to what we get from the chief, how much property did you save this month? How much did you make the town this month? I don't want to wait until the end of 24 months, even though I know it's a long cycle. You get us $11 million, $66,000 seems pretty cheap. At the end, if all we did was make life better for Huntersville, because they didn't hire advocacy, I'm not happy. So.
I just want to add also, I think it's great that we'll have someone on call that can do this work, but I'm also concerned with redundancy, right? And another question is, at the state level, because we have the league, are we truly tapping into that and all that they can give us, right? Have we assessed that? And again, I'm right on the cusp of coming from that training, and it was a lot of information, and they are very knowledgeable. I just don't know, and I'm new, so I don't know. But the question I have is, are we tapping into what the league offers already fully? And if we aren't, have we asked the question of, can they do this, or we need this because they haven't met our needs, right? But, Luminance seems like they will be available, and these seems like these deliverables seem admirable and great, but I'm just concerned with, $66,000 doesn't seem like a lot when you're getting a big ROI, right? But I just want to make sure that we've done our due diligence, that we've made sure that the league is giving us what they're supposed to give us, and if they haven't, have we asked the question of why, and can they give us more information or lobby, whatever way it is that we think that we're not getting.
Yeah,
Well,
those are, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, for us to do that, we would probably have to hire like Orion for legislative type things, or somebody specific, like we hired Ryan to do, economic development, like if we want but then to hire someone, we would have to find someone, and then we'd have to do all the work and develop, but this is already, to me, it looks like a built-in service that they can do for this price, and then at the end of 2 years, we can see, okay, do we like it? Are we getting anything out of it? And maybe we will hire someone to just do that.
And I'll say, we just went through this with Centralina. So we had a firm before Lumen. They went through a pretty rigorous vetting process with the Centralina staff as well as with the executive board. We are also part of League of Municipalities, and they were not able to dig in and help with some of these specific projects for the 9 regions, 9 counties that they represent. So I think this is much more personalized and dedicated than what you get with League of Municipalities. They're like big umbrella, but they're not going to dig in and go say, okay, we're going to go and ask for Harrisburg to get a train station. That might be on their broader transportation plan, but you're buying for the same dollar across all of those.
But have we asked them?
Yeah, so if you look at this list, there are things they don't do, and we have asked. Bill drafting. The league will not draft a bill for a specific municipality. They're not going to review that state bill language for a municipality. They may say, hey, for everybody, these are kind of the broad strokes. They're not going to engage the congressional delegation on Harrisburg's behalf. They might do it on the league's behalf, but that's a league. That's not us. Council staff and community briefings. Again, how does it affect every community in the entire state? Yes, they'll give a briefing on that. How does it affect the high-growth suburban communities outside of Charlotte and Raleigh? No, they're not going to break it down to that. They're not going to develop a biannual budget for the town. They're not going to represent the town with the legislators. They're definitely not going to advocate for specific appropriations for the town.
On those briefings, could we expect that to be like we get a briefing from finance and police and all that? Or is it going to be, here's an email, read it?
Sarah, how would we do our quarterly
Sure.
council briefings?
I will be at any meeting you want me to be at to provide an update. But
Come
when-
Saturday, we're there all day.
I'll be here on Saturday, anytime you want. No, but likely what we will do, and this is open for discussion, however you best want, get the information or want the information, we can accommodate that. Typically, I would say when we are in session, they typically will finish up their work on Thursday afternoons. So either Thursday evening or Friday morning, you're going to get an email from me with an update about that week. But now, as far as presenting in meetings it is all up for discussion for how, you want that information presented to you. But we can create videos, we can create written updates, but for sure, when they're in session, that will be weekly, except when there are urgent situations that arise, because things either sit really, really slowly in the General Assembly, or they move like that, and so we really want to stay on top of that. So if there is something urgent, obviously, we're not going to wait until the end of the week to notify you of that. And just as an example, Wednesday, the House Committee on Property Tax Reform and Reduction will be meeting. So I know that's of interest of everyone. So as soon as that meeting is over, or within that same afternoon, you'll get an update of what was covered in that meeting that would be of interest to you.
And I'll brag on Sarah for a little bit, because we actually had an executive board meeting with Lumen Strategies, and I think like 2 hours prior to our meeting, they had that committee meeting, and we had a one-page summary that far exceeded any updates we got from anywhere else. So thank you for that.
Thank
It was
you.
very
Thank you for
helpful.
sharing that.
In the event that this would get approved, could we ask that we get a quarterly update?
Yeah, I mean, quarterly council briefings are included in
Okay.
this. And again, we can develop how we
In
want
your
that.
report, and could you fold that into your town manager report?
Oh, for sure, we could fold it in there. And once I think it's session and timing specific. There may be times, for instance, we need to facilitate an agenda workshop. We need to set our agenda. That's really coming from the board, right? And so something like that, we probably all need to meet and set that. Now, we're going to want to get all the information from staff first and understand what are the pinch points, what are the problems that we have. Now, when we do updates moving on, well, I think if it's a lighter update, it might be something that's good in a manager's update at a council meeting. If it's really heavy, some of these workshops that we're putting in, that could be something we invite the folks at Lumen out and say, hey, why don't you come out and tell us all the big stuff that is going on, or give a briefing. But it really, this gives you the opportunity to craft that how you want. I've been at the town 9 years now. I have a pretty intuitive feel for the quality that is expected when we do something. And so I think you either don't do it or you do it right. And I do think option 3 in Lumen Strategies are the right choice and the right product in order to get what you need done. Now, can we still, use the league and use Central Ina? And sure, there's strength in numbers there, but I think this really fills the gap in between what maybe the chamber's priorities are, what Central Ina's priorities are, what the league's priorities are, and what Harrisburg's priorities are. And if those diverge, we've got our own advocacy. We don't have to get in line behind all of the larger cities that typically dominate the league.
I just have 2 more quick questions. Are you guys physically in Raleigh and Washington anyway? Are there people there?
So I will be, when session is in. I actually live in Hickory, but I will be in Raleigh a significant amount of time when they are in session.
Okay.
We do not have anyone on the ground in DC at this time. Okay. I do federal lobbying for the city of Hickory as well, and that experience has mostly been working with staff in the district. But I will say that we have a really good partnership with a firm that is on the ground in DC. Should we need to engage them, we can absolutely do that at no additional cost to you. That's something that we have discussed. Typically, I think you'll find federal lobbying to be around grants. It's rarely policy change. I mean, that can come up. I actually worked on an EPA issue for the city of Hickory, but typically it's about getting support for your grants and things like that, that we can do mostly through email and phone calls with congressional staff.
Okay, and that was my second question. We're not on the, this is a fully loaded number, we're not on the hook for travel and?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Oh, so you winning me a little bit. So, I mean, I like to have that extra piece. However, if if this is approved and we start working on this and we don't get these things that we're talking about, what's the termination like? How does that work? Like, you know, are we fixed in 2 years? Like, I just want to be clear on that.
No, I'd have to look back at the contract language, but I think it's,
I would say, in fact, I believe, I'm pretty sure, in the contract, there is a 60-day termination clause, so you do not have to go through the whole 2 years if you are unhappy with our services, which you will not be.
Okay.
But if you are, a 60-day termination clause is there.
yeah, I was going to say it's 30 to 90, but
Okay.
It's 60.
Sarah's on it.
Any other questions for Sarah or Rob?
Should this move forward, you'll be at this meeting on Wednesday that you just referenced?
Correct.
Okay, if there are no other questions, is there a motion to approve the 2-year contract with Lumen Strategies for $66,000 per year for legislative advocacy and education services?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Is everybody approved? Did you?
I raised my hand. I mean, I just asked questions for clarity, not to disagree. Like,
Oh, no,
I need to
but
know. I raised my hand.
For yes or no?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Motion is carried.
Thank you, Sarah.
Janet's like, wait, I can't see. All right, with that, let's see, action items. Oh, wait. Oh, yeah, I do have one. Thank you, Brian.
You mind just giving us the title slide? All right. So this evening, the last item of new business that we have is a resolution and an oath of office for a deputy finance officer. So the finance director title and assistant finance director title are slightly different than the finance officer designation. So the finance officer designation, you can have a couple in a town, and so that's right now we've got myself and Lee that are finance officers, so that means that we can pre-audit contracts and agreements, sign checks, open up bank accounts, and initiate transfers. And so we would like to add a third finance officer to the team. And so we have Maggie Peduto, who's our assistant finance director. She's been in that role for a little over a year now and been with the town for about 4 years. And last year, she also got certified as a North Carolina Certified Local Government Finance Officer. So Maggie is the person that makes me look good in all the presentations I have with you all, and she's very highly trusted. And so I'm really happy and proud of her to get this appointment from you all with your approval tonight and see her take her oath. Any questions before we
You know,
begin?
Maggie she came on during COVID, and the only reason I remember this, Maggie, is we would look at who's all in chat on the council meetings, and I'm like, who's this M. Peduto? Who, and I don't, yeah. So I can remember looking up your name a few times.
Yeah, she's been at every meeting for years.
Yeah.
Most dedicated YouTube and Zoom attendee.
Your attendance was noted.
Are you ready to take the oath, Maggie? Let's do it.
Oh, what?
Jennifer.
Rob, Janet's asking.
I don't think the town council doesn't approve the deputy finance officer, just has to be sworn in.
Okay.
It's just a resolution.
Raise your right hand. I, Margaret Peduto, do solemnly swear. I, Margaret Peduto, do solemnly swear. That I will support and maintain the Constitution and laws of the United States. That I will support and maintain the Constitution and laws of the United States. And the Constitution and laws of North Carolina. And the Constitution and laws of North Carolina. Not inconsistent therewith. Not inconsistent therewith. And that I will faithfully discharge the duties of my office.
That I will faithfully discharge the duties of my office
as Deputy Finance Officer for the Town of Harrisburg.
as Deputy Finance Officer for the Town of Harrisburg.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
You're
Thank you.
Brian, quick question. Lee's saying you do have to have council approve the appointment?
A resolution,
Yeah, there is a resolution. Do they need to make a motion for that? Okay.
So as soon as the mayor sits down, we'll make that motion and finalize.
Too late now.
No take back.
Rewind.
So with that, is there a motion to approve the swearing in and oath of office for Deputy Finance Officer Maggie Peduto?
Motion.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Motion is carried. Action items. Rob, what do you have? I think we had some questions about the sidewalk and the park building.
Yeah, so we added money in the park, so we'll follow up with, what that cost is with the additional siding, whether it be spent on the brick. I'll make this, some stuff out. If it's over, we'll come back on that. James is going to yell at me. I don't have my mic on. Let's see what else I had. I did get a question from Councilmember Glover about statute authority on the mayor presiding over the meeting, so I'll send that out. But that's really all. You asked where it was written? Is that, I mean, if it's not an action item, I
No,
won't
my
do it.
question was about the singular ability to determine whether or not a nameplate was changed. It wasn't about presiding over a meeting.
Yeah, that is the genesis of that. The mayor presides over the meeting. She's in control of the dais. It's not a manager administrative thing. So I'll send that out, but there's not going to be a state legislative authority that says you can or cannot and who controls nameplates and things on the dais. It's just inherent in the presiding over the meeting part. But of course, that's up to council if you decide to change that. But there is no council policy that we have that contradicts that. So that's, again, like Councilman Smith had mentioned, it's how it's been the 9 years I've been here. That is what's used as presiding over the dais, for instance, like the agenda. Yes, I said, we create the agenda from staff, but it's the mayor's agenda. Like the mayor can add, delete, say we're not putting something, the mayor sets the agenda, and that's a singular decision that your mayor gets to set. Now, council can add things to an agenda with the 4 votes, but the mayor can add things to the agenda just through that presiding language. So I'll send that, but that's the only, if that's an action item, that's the only.
Yeah, I don't want to
statute I have
belabor, but it will be helpful, because I don't think the issue is about presiding. I think the issue is the departure of the decision to not have the nameplate in the website indicate the title. I think that's the issue, because I think we're all clear on presiding, and as long as the mayor is here, she presides. That's clear. I read it in the statute. That's not, I don't think that's the question. I just want to be clear
Okay.
on what the action item is and what we're asking.
What was the question for me then?
So the question is, because the statute says that no singular vote or person can make a decision. It needs to be a collective decision by the council. And so the question, because the mayor, Mayor Teague wanted it not to be the case as it has been in the past, so that's where the discrepancy is. It's why now is there a discrepancy on the title and the website, not about presiding over the meeting. And so I guess, and I don't want to speak for you, Councilman Glover, but I think the question is, where is that, right? Because it's not about the meeting. It's about the nameplate in the website. That's the question. And if you can show that to me, because I've done a thorough check on that, and it's not clear. So it's up for interpretation. And my concern is that it's very subjective, right? And my concern also is that if this is the direction that we're going to go, in 2 years there's going to be another election. And so if we're going to make that, let me finish. And in 2 years there's going to be another election, right? And so I want it to be documented if we depart, right, from what we've done in the past, and what other municipalities in Cabarrus County has done, and other places in the state has done, we need to have that on record that that's what we decided to do. And that's what procedure and governance says.
Yeah, and that's all good. That's not an action item for me, though.
But
That's-
I'm
that's
just making
something
it
the
clear. I'm
council-
just making it clear. because
Understood,
Since
yeah.
you brought it up, I'm just making it clear what the ask is.
Yeah, I thought, and maybe I'm wrong, that Councilwoman Glover asked me where that's written that the mayor decides on a nameplate. My understanding of that is because the mayor presides over a meeting, she's in charge of this dais. I think Councilman Smith mentioned it earlier, that's how it's always been. Whether or not, you want to talk to, town attorney through some emails and send these statutes and stuff, that's just not a staff thing, and the other stuff isn't. But if there was a action item there, that's what I was bringing up, is that I can send that mayor presides statute, but that would be the only thing I have.
There is one item I didn't get a chance to say earlier, and I forgot. And I think we'd all be amiss if we didn't, is Casey did have her baby, I saw today. So we wish her well. She's done a lot of communication for us, and I think that's the least we could do for her, is at least wish her well during this time.
Very nice.
Well, she
Thank you,
is-
Jared, for being in the audience with us tonight.
Casey's learning a lot right now with her first child, so, one more thing, Mayor, I just wanted to, we talked about a lot of stuff tonight, but I did want to thank our staff in general and our community members that showed up. I do think it's very unique. We're doing so many things, and our staff, I couldn't be more proud of what our staff does on a daily basis to get all of these things done. And we always do it in the highest quality and the highest fashion. And I think you've seen that from some of the residents that come in who have just said, you know what, just thank you. We've done a great job. You've done a great job. I love living here. You heard me gush on this with our quarterly report last month, so I won't go into it again. But I'd be remiss to say, we do just have a phenomenal staff. They work really hard. We push them pretty hard. We ask them for a lot of things, and they do a great job. And our community is very supportive, and that's not normal right now either. I think society, we take for granted how good a community we have here in Harrisburg is, but society in general is kind of up in arms right now. But I really appreciate our community rallying behind us, and I appreciate the work that our staff does on a daily basis. That's all I have.
We do not have a need for a closed session, so with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is concluded.